The Silent Guardians. Captain Sarah Chen pressed her face against the observation deck window of the International Space Station, watching the massive alien vessels drift silently above Earth's atmosphere. For 3 months now, the crystalline ships had maintained their position, neither advancing nor retreating, just hovering like ancient sentinels in the void. "Any word from the ground?" she asked Lieutenant Martinez, who was monitoring the communications array with growing frustration. "Nothing new," Martinez replied, shaking his head. "The aliens still won't respond to any of our signals. Radio, laser, mathematical sequences, even music. Complete radio silence." Down on Earth, the situation was becoming increasingly tense. World leaders demanded answers that nobody possessed. The alien fleet consisted of 12 enormous vessels, each one roughly the size of Manhattan, arranged in a perfect geometric pattern around the planet. Their hulls seemed to be made of some kind of living crystal that pulsed with soft blue light, and they emitted no detectable energy signatures that human technology could interpret. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the station's chief xenobiologist, floated over to join them at the window. Her dark eyes reflected the alien ship's ethereal glow as she studied them through her tablet's enhanced imaging system. "I've been analyzing their positioning," she said quietly. "It's not random. They're maintaining exact distances from each other and from Earth. Whatever they're doing, it's deliberate and calculated." The world below was in chaos. Stock markets had crashed the day after the aliens arrived. Religious groups proclaimed everything from the end times to the second coming. Military forces across the globe remained on high alert, though conventional wisdom suggested that any species capable of crossing interstellar space would likely view human weaponry as primitive at best. "Look at this," Dr. Vasquez continued, pulling up a holographic display from her tablet. "I've been tracking their arrival pattern. They didn't just appear randomly. Each ship arrived precisely 47 minutes and 36 seconds after the previous one. That level of coordination suggests either incredible discipline or some form of hive mind." Sarah nodded, but her attention was drawn to something else. Through the station's enhanced sensors, she could detect subtle energy fluctuations emanating from the alien vessels. The patterns were regular, almost like a heartbeat, but the readings made no sense according to any known physics. "Martinez, patch me through to Houston," she ordered. "I want to speak with Director Morrison directly." While they waited for the connection, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial. The aliens had made no aggressive moves, issued no demands, and shown no interest in communication. Yet their very presence had brought human civilization to a standstill. "ISS, this is Houston Control. Director Morrison is on the line," came the crackling voice through the communication system. "Director, this is Captain Chen. We need to consider the possibility that these aliens aren't here for first contact in the traditional sense. Their behavior suggests they're waiting for something, or monitoring something." Morrison's voice carried the strain of 3 sleepless months. "What are you thinking, Captain?" "Sir, what if they're not here to make contact with us at all? What if we're not their primary concern?" The silence that followed was telling. On Earth, governments had been operating under the assumption that humanity was the focus of alien attention. The idea that Earth's dominant species might be irrelevant to these visitors was both humbling and terrifying. Dr. Vasquez was furiously typing on her tablet, cross-referencing data from various Earth-based observatories. Suddenly, her face went pale. "Sarah, I think I found something," she whispered. "I've been comparing the aliens' arrival with recent astronomical data, 3 months and 2 days ago, just before they showed up. The Arecibo array detected an unusual burst of gamma radiation from the direction of the Vega system." "Vega?" Martinez looked confused. "That's what, 25 light-years away?" 25.04 light-years, Dr. Vasquez corrected. "But here's the thing. The radiation signature doesn't match any known stellar phenomenon. It was artificial, and it was directed specifically at our solar system." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. You're saying someone or something sent a signal toward Earth from Vega? Not just a signal, Dr. Vasquez replied, her voice growing more urgent. According to the data pattern analysis, it was a warning. And judging by the aliens' immediate response and positioning around Earth, I think they received it too. The implications hit them all at once. The crystalline ships weren't invaders or explorers. They were guardians, positioning themselves around Earth in response to some kind of threat that humans couldn't even detect yet. But protecting us from what? Martinez asked the question they were all thinking. Before anyone could answer, alarms began blaring throughout the space station. The alien ships were moving for the first time in 3 months, but they weren't approaching Earth. Instead, they were turning outward, toward the edge of the solar system, their crystalline hulls beginning to glow with increasing intensity. Through the station's long-range sensors, Sarah detected new contacts appearing at the very limits of their detection range. Whatever the aliens had been waiting for, it was finally arriving. Houston, are you seeing this? Sarah's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking as she gripped the window frame. Confirmed, ISS. We're tracking multiple new contacts approaching from beyond Pluto's orbit. Unknown configuration, unknown intentions. The 12 Guardian ships were now pulsing with brilliant light, their energy readings spiking beyond anything the station's instruments could properly measure. Whatever technology they possessed, it was activating in response to the approaching contacts. Dr. Vasquez was working frantically at her station, trying to analyze the new arrivals. Sarah, these new ships are massive. They're at least 10 times larger than our Guardian vessels, and their energy signatures are completely different. Dark, almost predatory. The truth was becoming clear, though it defied everything humanity had assumed about their place in the universe. Earth wasn't being invaded or studied. It was being protected by aliens who had somehow learned the war nobody saw coming. Admiral James Harrison stood in the Pentagon's Emergency Command Center, staring at displays that showed impossible things. For the past 18 hours, a battle had been raging in the outer solar system between the crystalline Guardian ships and the massive dark vessels that had emerged from deep space. The scale of the conflict was beyond human comprehension. Sir, we're receiving new data from the Deep Space Monitoring Array, reported Colonel Sarah Williams, her voice tight with disbelief. The energy outputs from this battle are equivalent to multiple solar flares. If this were happening anywhere near Earth's orbit, the electromagnetic pulse alone would wipe out every piece of electronic equipment on the planet. Harrison nodded grimly, watching the tactical display update with each new sensor reading. The 12 Guardian vessels had spread themselves in a defensive sphere around the solar system, engaging an enemy fleet of 47 massive ships that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The dark vessels moved like living shadows, their hulls appearing to ripple and flow as if made of liquid obsidian. What do we know about the combatants? Harrison asked, though he suspected the answer would be frustratingly little. Dr. Michael Chen, the military's leading expert on theoretical xenobiology, stepped forward with a tablet full of preliminary analysis data. The Guardian's technology appears to be based on some form of controlled crystalline matrix that can manipulate energy at the quantum level. They're essentially turning space itself into a weapon, creating gravity wells and energy bursts that defy our understanding of physics. He paused, pulling up another set of readings. The attackers are different. Their ships don't just absorb light. They seem to absorb everything. Energy, matter, even gravitational fields appear to bend toward them. Whatever they are, they're the antithesis of creation. They consume. Through the space station's enhanced sensors, Captain Chen and her crew had a front-row seat to humanity's first interstellar war. The Guardian ships moved with fluid grace, their crystalline hulls reshaping themselves as needed. sometimes forming perfect spheres that generated defensive barriers, other times extending into angular configurations that focused their energy weapons into devastating beams. "Sarah, look at this," Dr. Vasquez called from her monitoring station. "I'm detecting communication patterns between the Guardian ships. They're not just coordinating their attack patterns, they're singing." Singing? The harmonic frequencies they're using to communicate. When I run them through the station's audio systems, it sounds like music. Complex, beautiful music that somehow conveys tactical information. Lieutenant Martinez was monitoring the enemy fleet's approach. "The dark ships are trying to break through the Guardian perimeter near Jupiter. If they succeed, they'll have a clear path to Earth." What none of the humans watching could fully comprehend was the true nature of the battle being fought on their behalf. The Guardian ships belonged to an ancient alliance of species who had long ago committed themselves to protecting younger civilizations from the Devourers, entities that traveled between galaxies consuming not just matter and energy, but the very potential for life itself. Earth had been marked for consumption 3 months ago when human radio signals finally reached a Devourer fleet operating in the galactic rim. The mathematical patterns in human music and the emotional resonance in their broadcast entertainment had painted humanity as a species rich in creative potential, making them a priority target for the harvest. The Guardian who commanded the crystalline fleet was an entity named Resonance of Distant Stars, a being whose species had evolved beyond physical form eons ago, but still remembered what it was like to fear extinction. When the Devourer beacon was detected emanating from Earth's direction, Resonance and 11 others had volunteered for what was likely a suicide mission. Back in the Pentagon, new data was flowing in from observatories around the world. The battle was intensifying, and the Guardian ships were taking heavy damage. Their crystalline hulls, which had seemed so beautiful and pristine, were now cracked and scarred, their light growing dimmer with each exchange of fire. "Admiral," Colonel Williams reported urgently, "we're detecting massive energy buildups from both fleets, whatever they're preparing to do. It's going to be big." Harrison activated the emergency broadcast system. Within minutes, every television, radio, and internet stream on Earth was carrying his message. "Citizens of Earth, this is Admiral Harrison speaking from the Pentagon. For the past day, a battle has been raging in our solar system between unknown alien forces. While we do not fully understand the situation, it appears that some alien species are actively defending Earth against an attacking force. I urge everyone to remain calm and stay indoors while this situation develops." What he didn't tell them was that long-range projections showed the Guardian fleet was losing. Despite their advanced technology and tactical superiority, they were simply outnumbered. The dark ships were relentless, replacing destroyed vessels with new ones that seemed to materialize from the void itself. Captain Chen watched from the space station as one of the Guardian ships, its crystalline hull shattered and bleeding light, made a desperate final run at the largest Devourer vessel. The explosion that followed was visible even from Earth's surface, as a new star briefly flaring to life in the night sky. 11 Guardians left, Dr. Vasquez reported quietly, and the enemy fleet hasn't lost a single ship. But something unexpected was happening on Earth. As news of the battle spread, humans began doing what they did best in times of crisis. They adapted, they innovated, and they refused to give up. Radio operators around the world began broadcasting the harmonic patterns the Guardian ships used for communication, trying desperately to make contact. Musicians composed pieces based on the mathematical frequencies they'd detected, somehow instinctively understanding that music might be a universal language. In research facilities across the globe, scientists worked around the clock to understand the energy signatures from the battle, hoping to find some way to help their unknown protectors. Children drew pictures of the crystalline ships and held them up to the sky. Religious leaders of every faith offered prayers for the aliens who had come to defend humanity. Dr. Chen on the space station was monitoring these efforts when something remarkable happened. "Sarah, the Guardian ships are responding to the radio broadcasts from Earth. Their harmonic frequencies are changing, becoming more complex." What the humans couldn't know was that resonance of distant stars was experiencing something unprecedented. The emotional resonance from 6 billion human minds, all focused on hope, gratitude, and defy. The song that saved everything. The crystalline web of energy surrounding the Devourer fleet began to pulse with increasing intensity, fed by the emotional resonance of an entire planet's worth of human consciousness focused on a single desperate hope. From the International Space Station, Captain Chen watched in amazement as the Guardian ships continued their impossible transformation, their damaged hulls not just repairing but evolving into new configurations that seemed to bend the laws of physics. Dr. Vasquez was practically vibrating with excitement as she analyzed the energy readings. "Sarah, this is incredible. The harmonic frequencies from Earth aren't just reaching the Guardian ships, they're somehow amplifying the aliens' natural abilities. It's like human emotion is a power source they never knew existed." Down on Earth, the phenomenon was spreading beyond anyone's expectations. Major cities around the world had organized synchronized broadcasts, with millions of people joining their voices to the radio transmissions being sent to the Guardian fleet. The International Symphony Orchestra had gathered in Vienna to perform an improvised composition based on the alien harmonic patterns, and their music was being broadcast to every corner of the globe. In the Pentagon, Admiral Harrison watched tactical displays that showed impossible readings. "Colonel Williams, tell me what I'm looking at here." "Sir." The Guardian ships appear to be drawing power directly from Earth itself. Not electrical or thermal energy, but something we've never detected before. Our scientists are calling it consciousness energy, for lack of a better term. The Dark Devourer vessels were fighting desperately to break free from the crystalline web, but their consuming nature, which had always been their greatest strength, was now working against them. Every bit of energy they tried to absorb only made the web stronger, feeding power back to the Guardian ships. Resonance of distant stars, the Guardian commander, was experiencing something that challenged everything their species understood about the universe. The humans below weren't just supporting the battle with their emotions, they were actively participating in it. Human consciousness, it turned out, was uniquely compatible with the crystalline matrix technology that powered the Guardian vessels. For millions of years, the Guardians had fought the Devourers using only their own advanced technology and the power of their disciplined minds. But human consciousness was different, chaotic and creative in ways that the Guardians' ordered thoughts could never be. Where Guardian minds thought in perfect harmony, human minds created unexpected patterns, innovative solutions, and wild bursts of inspiration that translated into devastating weapons against the Devourers. Captain Chen received an urgent communication from Houston. "ISS, we're detecting massive changes in the battle configuration. The Guardian ships are moving into Earth's atmosphere." Through the station's viewports, Chen could see the 11 remaining crystalline vessels descending slowly through the upper atmosphere, their hulls glowing with soft, warm light that seemed almost welcoming after the harsh energies of deep space combat. But they weren't abandoning the fight, they were changing it. The largest Guardian vessel, its hull a magnificent spiral of crystal that caught and refracted Earth's sunlight into rainbow patterns, positioned itself directly above the United Nations building in New York. Others took positions over major population centers around the globe, their presence somehow radiating a sense of protection and gratitude that transcended language. Then something unprecedented happened. The Guardian ships began to communicate directly with human minds. The contact wasn't telepathy in any science fiction sense, but rather a deep harmonic resonance that allowed humans to understand the aliens' purpose without words. Across the globe, people suddenly knew the true story of the battle being fought on their behalf. They learned about the ancient alliance of guardian species who had committed themselves to protecting younger civilizations. They understood that Earth had been marked for consumption by the Devourers because human creativity and emotional depth made them valuable prey. Most importantly, they realized that their own consciousness was now the key to winning a war that had raged across the galaxy for millennia. Dr. Michael Chen in the Pentagon felt the communication like music in his mind, showing him images of countless worlds that had fallen to the Devourers, their populations consumed not just physically but spiritually. Their potential for growth and creation devoured along with their bodies. But he also saw worlds that had been saved, protected by guardians who gave everything to preserve the spark of life and consciousness wherever it appeared. The message was clear. Humanity had a choice to make. Around the world, people began to understand what was needed. The guardianships could amplify human consciousness and emotion into weapons against the Devourers, but it required active participation, not just broadcasting support, but actually joining their minds to the crystalline matrix, becoming part of a collective consciousness that spanned species and star systems. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Scientists abandoned their laboratories to join massive meditation circles being organized in public parks. Musicians set up stages on street corners, playing compositions that somehow channeled the alien harmonic frequencies. Children drew pictures of crystalline ships and held them up to the sky, their innocent faith adding purity to the growing psychic network. In space, the effect was dramatic. The 11 Guardian vessels began to merge their crystalline matrices, forming a single massive construct that stretched across Earth's orbital space. The Devourer fleet, still trapped in the energy web, found themselves facing not just alien technology, but the focused will and creative power of an entire civilization that refused to be consumed. The final battle was unlike anything in the known history of galactic warfare. Instead of energy weapons and physical projectiles, it was fought with pure consciousness itself. Human dreams and aspirations became bullets of light that pierced Devourer hulls. Love, hope, and stubborn human defiance transformed into shields that their consuming power couldn't penetrate. Artist Sarah Montenegro, painting frantically in her studio in Mexico City, found her brushstrokes somehow guiding the movements of guardian vessels millions of miles away. Physicist Dr. James Wright, working equations on a blackboard in Cambridge, discovered that his mathematical insights were directly translating into tactical advantages for the crystalline fleet. The Devourers had never faced anything like it. For eons, they had consumed civilizations by overwhelming them with despair, feeding on fear and helplessness until entire species simply gave up the will to resist. But humans seemed incapable of giving up. Even in the face of cosmic-level threats, they responded with creativity, humor, and an absolutely irrational determination to survive. Captain Chen watched from the space station as the massive Devourer vessels began to dissolve, their dark hulls unable to maintain coherence in the face of so much focused creativity and life force. One by one, the shadow ships simply faded away, retreating to whatever dark spaces between galaxies they had emerged from. The crystalline construct began to separate back into individual guardian vessels, their hulls now somehow different, infused with patterns that looked suspiciously like human art and music made solid. The crisis was over, but something fundamental had changed in the galaxy. As the guardian ships prepared to depart, their message to humanity was one of profound gratitude and hope. Earth would no longer be alone in the cosmos. The alliance of guardian species had a new member, and human consciousness had proven itself capable of standing against the darkness between stars. Resonance of distant stars sent a final harmonic message to Earth as the crystalline fleet prepared to return to deep space. We came to protect you because all life deserves the chance to grow and create, but you have taught us that protection works both ways. The galaxy is a brighter place because humanity refuses to let the light go out. The Guardian ships departed as silently as they had arrived, but their gift to humanity remained. People around the world found themselves still connected to each other through the harmonic frequencies they had shared. Scientists discovered that human consciousness was capable of far more than they had ever imagined, and somewhere in research facilities and universities across the globe, the first humans were beginning to understand the principles of crystalline matrix technology. Earth had been saved not by superior firepower or advanced technology, but by the one thing that made humanity truly unique in the galaxy: their absolute refusal to surrender hope, even in the face of impossible odds. The Devourers would think twice before targeting another world protected by such stubborn, creative, and magnificently irrational beings. Ants was somehow reaching across the void. Human consciousness, it turned out, was far more powerful than anyone had imagined. The Guardian ships began to glow brighter, their damaged hulls slowly beginning to repair themselves. The music of Earth, broadcast into space by thousands of radio operators, was somehow providing the crystalline vessels with energy. "Admiral," Colonel Williams called out excitedly, "the Guardian fleet's energy readings are spiking beyond previous levels. Something down here is helping them." As if responding to humanity's support, the Guardian ships suddenly coordinated the most beautiful and terrible attack ever witnessed. Moving in perfect harmony, they began to sing a song that resonated across dimensions, their crystalline forms reshaping into a configuration that turned the fabric of space itself into a weapon. The Devourer fleet found itself trapped in a web of crystalline energy that began to feed on their own dark power, turning their consuming nature against them. For the first time in the battle, the enemy ships began to retreat. But the war was far from over, and the Guardians had revealed their most powerful weapon. The question now was whether they could maintain this new level of power long enough to drive the Devourers from the solar system permanently. Of an approaching threat, and had positioned themselves as shields between humanity and something far worse. "Martinez, start recording everything," Sarah ordered. "If we don't survive what's coming, someone needs to know that there were those who tried to protect us." As the distant contacts continued their approach toward Earth, the Guardian ships began moving into new defensive formations, their crystalline hulls singing with harmonic frequencies that somehow conveyed both beauty and determination. Humanity was about to witness a battle for their survival that they never knew they needed, fought by protectors they had never asked for. The real question wasn't why the aliens had come to protect Earth. The question was whether 12 Guardian ships would be enough to stop what was coming for humanity in the darkness between the stars.